Attorney General Jeff Sessions gave a speech today highlighting the importance of free speech on college campuses. Sessions spoke to students at Georgetown Law School where concerns about protests have been raised. He went on to say that freedom of thought and speech on college campuses are under attack and called for university officials to do their part in upholding students' First Amendment rights.
University officials and faculty must defend free expression boldly and unequivocally. That means presidents, regents, trustees, alumni as well. A national recommitment to free speech on campus is long overdue, and action to ensure First Amendment rights are overdue.
Attorney General Sessions also announced that the Department of Justice is doing its part to uphold free speech. The DOJ is filing a statement of interest in a campus free speech case this week with, quote, more to come. Erwin Chemerinsky is a dean and professor at the Berkeley School of Law at the University of California. He is also the author of Free Speech on Campus, and Erwin joins us now. Professor, thank you so much for being with us. It's a timely book. We heard Attorney General Jeff Sessions call to protect free speech on college campuses. Do you feel it's significant that we heard the Attorney General weigh in on this issue?
I think it's wonderful that Attorney General Sessions is coming down on the side of free speech. This is a place where hopefully liberals and conservatives can agree. All ideas and views should be able to be expressed on college campuses, no matter how offensive.
And yet, people don't agree these days. It's why your book is so timely. And in it, you write that controversies over free speech on college campuses vary with each generation. Where are we in this generation on college campuses and free speech?
It's a different situation than we've seen before. We think of free speech on campus involving the free speech movement at Berkeley in the mid-1960s, where it was students wanting to protest and campus officials wanting to stop it. Now what you have is outside speakers like Milo Yiannopoulos and Ann Coulter coming onto campus, and outside agitator groups like Antifa wanting to stop it. It puts campuses in a very different position than ever before.
You also go on to say that hate speech is protected speech, and some would say Coulter and Yiannopoulos, they would consider that hate speech. What happens, Professor, when that speech incites violence or threatens a certain group of people? Don't colleges have a responsibility to protect their students, and how do they balance those two things?
Of course, campuses have a duty to protect their students. Campuses must make sure that speakers are allowed to appear and that the safety of students, staff, and faculty are protected. It's important to realize that incitement is not speech protected by the First Amendment, but the Supreme Court has made it very difficult to show that speech is incitement. There has to be a substantial likelihood of imminent illegal activity, and the speech has to be directed at causing imminent illegal activity. With regard to hate speech, the Supreme Court, lower federal courts have been clear that is speech protected by the First Amendment. In the early 1990s, over 350 college universities adopted hate speech codes. Every one to be considered in a court was declared unconstitutional.
Why do you think it's so important, and why has the Constitution and the Supreme Court affirmed over and over again these protections for hate speech? Why is it important that that happens on college, that kind of speech has a hearing on college campuses?
I wish hate speech never occurred. Hate speech can cause enormous harms for students, staff, and faculty. But the basic premise of the First Amendment of academic freedom is that all ideas and views can be expressed, even hateful ones. Also, it's almost impossible to define hate speech in a way that's not unduly vague or unconstitutionally overbroad.
I want to go back to Attorney General Sessions' speech today and place his response to the president's criticism of NFL players who kneel during the national anthem. Take a listen to this, Professor.
Well, the president has free speech rights, too. He sends soldiers out every day to defend this country under the flag of the United States, under the national anthem and the unity that those symbols call on us to adhere to. So I agree that it's a big mistake to protest in that fashion, because it weakens the commitment we have to this nation that has provided us this freedom.
Critics will say Mr. Sessions is being a hypocrite for lamenting the loss of free speech on campus, but denouncing what the NFL players are doing. What's your take on this issue?
I think it is hypocritical. Freedom of speech means we protect the speech we don't like. We don't need the protection of free speech for the speech we like. We let that go on anyway. And so I think what Attorney General Sessions is saying is, let's let more conservatives come onto campus and speak. I agree they should be able to. But when he doesn't like what the NFL players are doing, saying, that's undermining our country. Nonsense. I believe our country is about freedom of speech and the ability to protest. And so that's what the football players are and should be able to do.
Erwin Chemerinsky, thank you so much for your perspective on this issue.
Thank you.